Hey guys, welcome to All Time Gaming. I'm Chris.
I'm Jamie.
And I'm Alex.
And this year we've seen a variety of fun reversals in video games. So for years we had drab, grey brownie shooters that went for a more serious kind of tone rather than, fun.
Even the reboot of Doom had that treatment, with initial tests being branded Call of Doom for how dull and generic it looked. Thankfully though, they switched all around and released the fucking Game of the Year!
But Doom is certainly not alone in undergoing a radical change in development. Here are 6 games with far weirder origins.
Guys, you own a PlayStation?
Yes.
Xbox?
Yeah.
No, Jamie does. Do you own a Wii U?
No.
And I think that was part of the problem.
Sorry, Nintendo.
I've got a Wii.
I'll make up for it by buying a Switch.
But listen, going back to the Wii U, among the opening lineup of games for it was an oddball title not in keeping with the usual kids types of games that, is associated with Nintendo.
Stop trying to keep me fit!
We Fit. Brain training. That's all you need.
Well, guys, that launch title was Zombie U, the tale of a zombie apocalypse set in, where else? London.
Look, there's a zombie! What are you gonna do now?
Right, but it actually started out, according to designer Jean-Carl Toupin-Braun.
That's 2 double barrels.
Holy shit, that's like a Quake gun. Well, according to him, it started out as a cousin to raving rabbits called Killer Freaks from Outer Space. This idea was quickly abandoned after Toupin-Braun realized the Killer Freaks had a different feel entirely. However, the cartoonish anarchy remained, and from early box art and character designs, it was intended to be a 4-player co-op similar to that grand old favorite Left 4 Dead.
Do you reckon that's what happens if you get bit by a rabbit? You turn into a crazy zombie?
Yes.
Wow.
Okay.
The folks at Ubisoft developing the game thought it wasn't utilizing the capabilities of the console enough, the little tablet, and the freaks were just too small to be practical enemies. In the end, head office said that the gameplay should slow down slightly to make the most of the 2-screen system, and it slowly twisted the freaks into zombies. Almost the entire development team went over to work on the title, and, well, as they say, that was that. The title was borrowed from the 1986 title Zombie, with an I, and a tense survival horror game was born. So from raving rabbits to British zombies. There you go.
What a story, Chris. Thanks.
That's how we kick it off.
Another game that underwent a tortuously twisted development process was the Try 'em Up Sleeping Dogs, which saw Wei Shen go undercover in the Hong Kong underworld.
Imagine if Sleeping Dogs was actually a game about dogs that sleep. Sleeping Dog Simulator 2017.
You can be a Labrador and go to sleep, okay.
Many people already know that Sleeping Dogs came as a descendant of the true crime franchise, but they'd be wrong. Because the game was originally completely outside the series. In 2007, the game was called Black Lotus and starred a female protagonist in an HBO-style crime drama.
The fuck is an HBO-style crime drama?
That's a police show I'd watch, Tits and
HBO.
Murder.
Tits and Murder.
That's what HBO stands for. It's horror
boobs
Horror
online.
boobs, yeah.
Horror boobs online.
That's my favourite MMO.
Yeah, that sounds cool.
It does sound cool, Chris, you're right, but someone at Activision didn't think so, and it was nixed just 1 year into development.
Next,
Instead, Activision suggested that the work be incorporated into the existing franchise as True Crime Hong Kong. Sounds like a porno I might watch one day.
Yeah.
Tight. Better than Bangkok Dangerous. Barely anything actually changed between the 2 games. You still had to go undercover and walk the fine line between cop and criminal, only this time a penis was added to the main character. True Crime Hong Kong was released to the public in November 2009 and then delayed because Activision was too busy raking in that sweet COD money to give a shit.
It was like Wolf of Wall Street over there. They weren't thinking about work. They were just like hookers and drugs. They're like, oh my god, this is amazing.
They waited until February 2011 to actually cancel the game, citing quality issues, which is a bit fucking ridiculous because it's not like True Crime New York was a good fucking game. It was a piece of shit.
Let's make another Skylanders. Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah. Fast forward to August 2011 and Square Enix bought the rights to the game, minus the True Crime intellectual property. As such, a new name, Sleeping Dogs, was given to the project and released in 2012. So it goes to show, have faith, persevere, and don't listen to Activision.
As much as the developers of Sleeping Dogs stuck to their vision with the game, Irrational Games clearly needed to listen to critics. If they hadn't, BioShock could have been an entirely different game and the worse for it. In 2002, Ken Levine was desperate to return to the game's style of System Shock 2, the critically acclaimed but poor-selling game developed by Irrational. But he wanted to move away from the cyberpunk style. A demo was even produced, which formed the basis of many of the mechanics eventually seen in the final game. But instead of Jack wandering around Rapture, the protagonist was called Carlos Coelho, a deprogrammer tasked by a US senator to retrieve his daughter from a cult in space.
As you do.
Yeah.
Everyday occurrence for me.
So far, so straightforward. He initially pitched the idea to EA, but they rejected it, and by 2004, it was looking uncertain as to whether the project would even go ahead. During this period, the game had changed to a large extent, with the setting changed to a recently discovered out-of-control Nazi genetics laboratory. Gameplay features such as plasmids had also been created to supplement the FPS aspects, but it was only after level designer JP LeBreton and artist Hoagie de la Plante worked closely together to create an environment radically different to System Shock 2 that the idea of Rapture took shape.
Hoagie de la Plante. That is the most awesome name I've ever
Who the
heard.
fuck called that kid Hoagie? That's someone who cannot stop thinking about food. Eventually, 2K took an interest and pledged support, with the shooter angle marketed heavily. Even with all aspects in place with months to go until launch, playtesters still found the game vague, with Atlas's then southern US accent coming across as more creepy than the Irish brogue it would later become. It took 8 months of intense polish by the art team and developers to produce the title we all know and love today. The game didn't so much have a solid origin, rather it evolved over time. What do you think though? Would you play a game about rescuing your missing daughter from a sky cult? Sounds kind of ridiculous to me.
Yeah, doesn't sound like Bioshock Infinite at all. So speaking of successes, few titles can claim to be as successful as Grand Theft Auto. Yet even this series had its setback early in its inception. The game began as the stupidly named Race and Chase, a top-down cops and robbers style game that reportedly everyone at Rockstar precursor DMA wanted to kill off at some point in time. The game itself was fairly linear, but with an Elite-inspired open world. This allowed for exploration, but with the mission structure that didn't make full use of it. Even its most ardent supporters in the development team called the game a rough and unplayable mess. However, it was a glitch in the game that first inspired what would eventually be GTA. The glitch would see cop cars constantly attempt to ram you off the road, whether you're a criminal or a fellow cop. The developers found that playing as a criminal evading this chaos was way more fun than the actual missions, and this premise was exploited and expanded into the main theme of the game.
This new gameplay mechanic that Rockstar stumbled on, it gives me an idea for what they could have called this game, The Getaway.
During development, the writers went one direction and the developers in another. This left the missions feeling disjointed and not connected to one another. All of this led to a development time of 4.5 years, when nobody appeared to know exactly what the fuck was going on.
Imagine that, 4.5 years. Now look at Grand Theft Auto 1 and imagine that took them 4.5 years.
That's crazy.
I spent 23 years with not a fucking clue what's going on. I'm still making that up.
Yet, amazingly, despite all of these problems, the delays and the disconnect, the game proved to be a massive hit, helped of course by the storm of controversy that came with it, which, by the way, they paid for themselves.
Okay, so Chris, the success of the first Grand Theft Auto after all that bullshit was a bit of a surprise.
Yeah.
And one of the surprises of this year, one of the big shocks, has been Battlefield.
Battlefield 1, yeah.
Battlefield 1, I don't think anyone back in January expected the game to do as well as it did, or even dethrone Call of Duty from its annual perch on top of the Gunwank Mountain.
Gunwank Mountain.
Yes, it's the name, it's where all first-person shooters sit. Yet Battlefield 1 has come a long way from its humble origins in Battlefield 1942, and even then, the series could have been radically different. Early in 2000, DICE had taken interest in a game called Codename Eagle, an alternate World War I shooter with drivable vehicles developed by Refraction Games. DICE bought Refraction later that year and began to work on a precursor to Battlefield called Urban Combat. The game was another cops and robbers game with drivable vehicles, classes, guns and the like, which pit the two teams against each other. But DICE soon realized that they wouldn't be able to get the theme working correctly and swiftly moved production to Battlefield 1942.
The original version sounds very familiar.
It should sound familiar, Chris, because that theme wasn't even completely abandoned. In 2011, Visceral and DICE decided to revisit the idea of criminal gangs facing off against the police because they thought that modern engines could now do it justice, the result of which was Battlefield Hardline.
The least enjoyed Battlefield game ever.
Finally on the list, we have possibly the most famous video game character of all time. Yes, it's Sonic the Hedgehog. Oh no, it's Mario, sorry.
We both made the same joke at the same time.
Hilarious, guys, hilarious.
The fat Italian plumber who divides his time between killing Bowser's children and playing tennis with him at the weekend, he's become an international symbol of gaming and the face of Nintendo for a generation. But if it weren't for strict copyright laws, the short fucker may have never come into being at all. Designer Shigeru Miyamoto was trying to come up with a smash hit for Nintendo when he came across the idea of developing a game based on the cartoon Popeye.
I'm glad you said cartoon because I was thinking Popeye's chicken.
Based on fried chicken. Yes, that's right. The freakish spinach fetishist with tumors for arms was Miyamoto's first pick for a breakout hit for Nintendo. Unfortunately for Miyamoto, but fortunately for the rest of us, the rights to Popeye were not available. Thank God.
Jesus.
And the legendary video game creator was forced to design his own character. A plumber, a princess, and a giant fucking ape. Presumably the Popeye version of Donkey Kong would have seen Bluto as the titular primate, Olive Oil as Paul Pauline, and Popeye as Jumpman himself. We can only speculate what would have happened had that been allowed to pass. But even then, Mario wasn't yet Mario. He wasn't even called Jumpman to begin with. He was called Mr. Video and was only named Mario after a surly American warehouse landlord called Mario threatened to kick all the Nintendo products stored there out onto the street unless back rent was paid. And that's the story of how an icon began as a cross between a New York stereotype and a stroke victim.
So that was 6 crazy origins for some of your favorite games. Was yours among them? Let us know in the comments down below. Or if you know of any other crazy origin stories, let us know as well.
And while you're there, why not give us a like and subscribe?
And if you'd like more stories behind your favourite games, don't forget to check out our list of the 6 most notorious gaming scandals of all time.
And click on my bell, and you'll get like a whole bunch of notifications when we do more videos.
Whoop, whoop.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Guys, we're creating a really awesome stable of like ATG published games.